I was like a middle schooler in a perfect Christian Southern family that, every time the doors are open, you go to church, and you look the right way, you say the right things, and you know the culture of religion. But meanwhile, like so many families in this country, my parents' marriage was falling apart, and the bomb had kind of already dropped from the plane and was heading towards the ground when they finally went to the church to get help, because our Christian culture didn't make a path for authenticity and humility and admitting weakness, and it didn't work. I went to the counseling pastor. Within a few months, our house was foreclosed upon, our cars were repossessed.
Wow.
They kicked us out of the Christian school we were in because we couldn't pay the bill, and my dad...
They didn't help your parents repair the marriage at all?
Well, they said they tried, and they did a few things, and then not too long after my dad tried to kill himself in my presence, things got so bad. We found out that the pastor that was counseling them had been simultaneously in an affair with another pastor's wife.
Oh dear.
And that put me on a journey to find out whether this was really true or not, whether I was just going to believe what my parents believe or whether I was going to own my own faith. And I almost left it all. Well, I think there's a real difference between religious activity and actually having a thriving spiritual life. And for me, it began with a real season of doubt. And the second section of the book, I talk about my doubt. And I went all over the world, even as a Christian pastor, down deep inside, I'm wrestling with these things. I went to the Dalai Lama city in northwest India. I went to the holiest place for Hinduism on the banks of the Ganges River, where Buddha gave his first sermon, the largest mosque in South Asia. I stood on a memorial for 250,000 genocide victims in Rwanda, and I asked myself whether this is all true. And my faith in the end became stronger because of my doubt, not weaker. And I think there's a reason for that. Christianity has become so institutionalized, and so I judge my spiritual health by how many church services I attend or how often I read the Bible. But when Jesus came from heaven, he came into a hyper-religious culture. I mean, Greco-Roman gods with perfect physiques in these magnificent temples. And how did Jesus come? He came in a major. He didn't go to Rome. He went to this tiny little town called Bethlehem because Jesus, I guess, sort of thought that maybe men would feel a little more connected to a God that looked like them. And God is okay with our doubts and our questions. I mean, the much vilified Apostle Thomas, right? Everybody's taught, doubting Thomas, he's horrible. Doubting Thomas was, he was the only apostle that touched the wounds of Jesus. And history tells us he eventually believed enough that he died as a martyr in South India. And 2,000 years later, in one of the least Christian of all nations, there's a church in South India that traces its lineage all the way back to the vilified doubting apostle, because he had his own experience with Jesus, and Jesus was okay with it.